Have you ever wondered why, after a great conversation, she simply loses interest? You think you did everything right, but the truth is, every word you said was another nail in the coffin of attraction. There's a secret language, a mind game, happening beneath the surface, and if you don't know it, you're doomed to lose respect and power before you know it. In this video, I'm going to reveal how to use Machiavelli's tactics in your conversations to stop being the predictable man she forgets and become the challenge she can't get out of her head. If you're ready to abandon strategies that fail and start communicating from a position of absolute power, stay until the end, because you're going to understand the game like never before. Topic 1. Vulnerability as a lethal weapon. The average man, in his desperation to impress, dresses in alpha male armor that, in reality, is as fragile as glass. He believes that by projecting an image of infallible perfection, a tough guy who can do anything, he will gain a woman's respect. How naive. That's the first mistake on this chessboard. Think of it as a mind game where predictability equals defeat. When you present yourself as a walking stereotype, she already knows your every move. She reads you like an open book and, believe me, she's bored by the third page. A true high-value man doesn't need to shout his strength. His power lies in controlling the board, in moving the pieces no one expects. True masculine strategy isn't based on brute force, but on superior intelligence, an ability to read the emotional battlefield and use the opponent's expectations against them. Dropping the perfect guy mask isn't a weakness. It's the first move of a master. Vulnerability, when used deliberately, is the most lethal weapon in the male arsenal. I'm not talking about whining about your childhood traumas or becoming her shoulder to cry on. That's pathetic and only makes her lose respect for you. I'm talking about strategic vulnerability, a chink in the armor that you yourself choose to reveal. It's an act of raw power, a demonstration of emotional control, so great that you allow yourself the luxury of appearing fallible. Why is it so effective? Because it's unexpected. She expects the peacock flaunting his feathers, and instead finds a man confident enough to admit controlled imperfection. This, my friend, is a form of psychological manipulation of the highest order. It bypasses her defenses, creates an instant connection, and completely disarms her. You're saying, wordlessly, I am so in control of my reality that I have nothing to hide and nothing to prove to you. The power that emanates from that attitude is overwhelming. Think of this as Machiavelli would. The prince shouldn't always be the lion. Sometimes he should be the fox. The lion is strong but predictable. The fox survives through cunning. Applying this to the mind game of seduction means that brute force, the alpha male, is useless against emotional traps. Instead, the fox uses the perfect bait, a story of a past failure from which he learned a valuable lesson, an anecdote about a fear he conquered. In doing so, you're not revealing a current weakness. You're showing a battle scar. Scars aren't meant to elicit pity. They're meant to command respect. They show that you've been in battle and survived, that you have depth. This move requires absolute emotional control because you can't let emotion rule you. You're the one who controls the narrative, who decides which piece of your life puzzle you show him to get the desired outcome. That's the essence of a superior masculine strategy. A high-value man understands that relationships are a constant negotiation of power, and in this negotiation, information is the most valuable currency. When you present yourself as an impenetrable fortress, you offer nothing, you build no trust, and therefore you invite no connection. But when you offer a piece of calculated vulnerability, you invite her into your world but on your terms. You give her a small bite and leave her wanting more. For example, instead of bragging about your successes, you could humorously recount how you messed up on a project and the brutal lesson it taught you. This not only humanizes you but demonstrates intelligence and resilience. You're playing in a different league than the guys who only know how to puff out their chests. You're using a subtle manipulation tactic, where the goal is to gain her trust so you can lead the interaction. Respect isn't demanded, it's orchestrated. Understanding this principle is what separates boys from men in the complex mental game of attraction. While most continue to compete to see who has the fastest car or the biggest muscles, the strategist watches from the shadows, sharpening his most powerful weapon, the mind. Controlled vulnerability is your statement of intent, your way of saying that you don't play by other people's rules, but rather make your own. It's the foundation upon which true power and genuine attraction are built, one that depends not on external factors but on your own internal mastery. However, it's useless to open this door if, immediately afterward, you make the blunder that annihilates all the ground you've gained, a mistake that turns you into a mere approval-seeking buffoon. Topic 2. The clumsy conqueror syndrome. Just when you've managed to disarm her with a display of strategic vulnerability, you run the risk of falling into the most common and pathetic trap, the scruffy charmer syndrome. This is the man who approaches a woman as if he's trying to defuse a bomb or solve an impossible riddle. His head is full of techniques, canned phrases, and routines he's memorized from some cheap guru. He's so focused on executing his plan that he forgets the most important thing, being a human being. His interaction is stiff, clumsy, soulless. She senses it instantly. She feels an energy of need, of effort, like that of a door-to-door encyclopedia salesman, and nothing kills attraction faster than a man who tries too hard. This is a fatal flaw in the mind game because it betrays that you're not operating from a position of power, but of supplication. You're asking for her approval, and a man who demands never gets respect. The low-value man tries to sell himself. He lists his accomplishments, boasts about his job, his car, his travels. He turns the conversation into a job interview where he's the desperate candidate. And you know what a quality woman does when she encounters a salesperson? She puts up a wall, her fake radar goes off, and the interaction becomes an exercise in avoidance on her part. A high-value man, on the other hand, doesn't sell, he attracts. He's the prize. His energy and presence are the offer, not his material possessions or accomplishments. He's not there to convince her of anything. He's there to find out if she's interesting enough to be part of his reality. Do you see the shift in frame? It's abysmal. He goes from being the clumsy hunter chasing his prey to the lion resting in his territory, calmly observing whether the lioness is worthy of his attention. This male strategy is based on a self-perception of abundance, not on acting to fill a gap. This is where true power and emotional control come into play. The key isn't what do I say now, but who am I? You must abandon the technical mindset and cultivate an inner energy of certainty. A calm that comes from knowing your worth isn't dependent on their reaction. You're not there to get a result. You're there to express your masculinity without reservations. When you free yourself from the need for a yes, your behavior changes radically. You become bolder, more playful, more unpredictable. The conversation flows because you're not following a script. You're present, here and now, calibrating the interaction in real time. This is mental gaming at its finest. You're not playing to win, you're playing to play, and that, paradoxically, is the only way to win. A woman senses this absence of need and is inexplicably drawn to it. From a perspective that Machiavelli himself would approve of, authenticity is the most sophisticated tool of manipulation in a world full of men reciting the same lines and following the same predictable tactics. The man who simply is, who presents himself with genuine, unadorned energy, becomes a fascinating anomaly. His naturalness is his best trump card. He doesn't wear himself out trying to crack the feminine code because he knows there's no such thing. Instead, he focuses on building his own kingdom, on being the king of his own world. And a true queen isn't attracted to the buffoon trying to entertain her, but to the king of a neighboring, powerful kingdom. Your goal isn't to enter her world, it's to make her desperately want an invitation to enter yours. Respect is built on this unwavering independence. So, the first step is to dismantle that technical conqueror mentality and replace it with one of solid, authentic presence. You must be the anchor in the storm of social interaction, not the leaf that blows away. Your value is intrinsic, not something you must prove or apologize for. But cultivating this internal energy is only half the battle. It's no use having a Ferrari engine if you put it in the frame of a baby stroller. Your body, your gaze, your posture, all of these communicate your power or weakness long before you even open your mouth. There's a way to project this quiet authority, to own the space and set the tone for the interaction without uttering a single word, and that's the next level of this game. Topic 3. Physical presence as a powerful ally. You've cultivated an internal energy of certainty, but it's useless if your body contradicts it. Your physical presence is your calling card, the herald that announces your arrival on the social battlefield. Long before any verbal mind games begin, the physical combat has already begun, and for most, it's already lost. The average man moves through the world apologetically with his body, rounded shoulders, a shifty gaze, nervous, hurried movements. His body language screams, "I don't deserve to be here." A high-value man, on the other hand, understands his body as a tool of power. He occupies space with deliberate calm, as if every inch rightfully belongs to him. It's not about being the biggest or the strongest, but about projecting a quiet authority that forces others to take notice. Your body is the first and most impactful front in your masculine strategy. The most potent weapon in this physical arsenal is, without a doubt, the gaze. Eye contact is the arena where the most primal power duels are fought. The weak man is the first to look away, in an instinctive gesture of submission. It's the equivalent of showing your neck to your opponent. A true power strategist understands the art of holding her gaze. I'm not talking about an aggressive or intimidating gaze that makes her feel uncomfortable, but one that is calm, penetrating, and confident. It's an act of pure emotional control that communicates wordlessly. I see you. I'm not intimidated by you, and I am in control of this reality. The technique is simple but devastating. Hold her gaze for a second longer than socially acceptable, then smile subtly and look away of your own volition, not out of nervousness. This simple act creates palpable tension, an emotional peak that is the basis of attraction. It's an exquisite form of manipulation that establishes your dominance from the first second. Your posture is the second pillar of your physical power. A man who slouches projects defeat. A man who stands tall, with his shoulders back and his chest open, projects victory. Think of the difference between a predator and prey. Prey is nervous. Their movements are quick and reactive. The predator is the embodiment of calm and efficiency. Every movement is deliberate and purposeful. Your masculine strategy should mimic the predator's. Move slowly, as if you're in no hurry, as if the world were waiting for you, not the other way around. When you're sitting, lean back slightly, occupy your space, avoid nervous tics, fidgeting with your hands or constantly moving your legs. Every gesture of stillness is a demonstration of emotional control and power. You are communicating that. You are so comfortable in your own skin that nothing outside can disturb you. The respect this engenders is automatic and unconscious. Once you've mastered the gaze and posture, the next level in this game, as Machiavelli would say, is the calculated use of touch. Touch is a bridge that breaks the physical and psychological barrier, but it must be crossed with impeccable strategy. The clumsy man touches in a needy way, seeking validation. The high-value man touches casually and dominantly as an affirmation of his status. A brief, light touch on the arm or back while emphasizing a point, then withdrawing it. It's not a sexual gesture, it's a power gesture. You're testing her compliance and setting a precedent for physical contact on your terms. The key is to do it naturally and without detachment from the outcome, as if it's the most normal thing in the world. To you, this small act of physical boldness can advance your position in the mental game more than 10 witty one-liners. It's a declaration that you lead, and she, if she's worthy, will follow. Taken together, your physical presence, your gaze, your posture, your movements, and your use of touch builds a framework of dominance before the actual conversation even begins. You've established a silent authority, a non-verbal power base that makes your subsequent words carry much greater weight. She already senses your trust, has already registered your status on a primal level. Yet this entire imposing structure can come tumbling down like a house of cards if, when you open your mouth, you fill it with empty words and unnecessary noise. You've demonstrated power in the silence of your body. But the true master of the game knows that silence is also the most devastating verbal tool. Control over what is left unsaid is often the final coup de grace. Topic 4. The domain of intentional silence. You've established your dominance with an imposing physical presence. She feels your power, your calm, your control. Now it's time to speak, and this is where 99% of men throw all their previous work out the window. They think they must be entertaining, witty, talkative. They fill every second of air with empty words, with useless noise, out of an atavistic fear of silence. What a rookie mistake. Silence, my friend, is not a vacuum. It's a weapon. It's a space of power that you, as a strategist, must master. When you leave a space of intentional silence in the conversation, you create a void that the less confident person will feel compelled to fill. It's a basic psychological interrogation technique. By remaining silent, you force her to reveal herself, to expose her cards, to justify her position. The man who talks non-stop gives away his power. He who masters silence controls the mental game completely. The fear of silence is the fear of oneself. Mediocre people need constant noise so they don't have to face their own insecurities. So, when you show yourself completely comfortable in silence, you are sending a signal of immense power. You are demonstrating absolute emotional control. You don't need her validation. You don't need her laughter. You don't need her constant attention to feel complete. Your calm stillness unnerves her and fascinates her in equal measure. It's a non-verbal declaration that your inner world is rotten. A man of high value is not a clown needing to entertain. He's a king on his throne, surveying his court. His silence isn't awkward, it's sovereign. This tranquility is perceived by her most primal instinct as an indelible mark of status and respect. Think of your words as diamonds. If you throw a handful of diamonds on the floor, they lose their value, becoming mere stones. But if you present a single diamond on a black velvet cushion, its brilliance and value increase 1,000-fold. Silence is that velvet cushion. When you speak sparingly but with intention, each word you utter takes on extraordinary weight. She learns to listen to you, to anticipate your words, to attach importance to them. This is a fundamental male strategy in any high-level negotiation, and seduction is the most intimate negotiation of all. Using silence is a subtle form of manipulation that conditions her to value your opinion above that of others. You make her work to gain your perspective, thus investing more in the interaction and, therefore, in you. Use this power technique that Machiavelli himself would have applauded for its effectiveness and simplicity. Ask her a question, an open-ended, thought-provoking question. Listen to her answer carefully, maintaining that eye contact you've already mastered. And when she's finished speaking, don't say anything. Count 1, 2, 3 seconds in your head. Hold her gaze, perhaps with a slight nod, as if you're deeply processing what she said. In most cases, the pressure of your silence will keep her talking. She'll add details, justify herself, seek your approval. You've just gotten her to invest more, give you valuable information, and work to impress you all without having done a damn thing. This is the pinnacle of the mind game, getting the maximum result with the minimum effort. Mastering silence envelops you in an aura of mystery and authority. You become an enigma she feels the need to solve. Her mind will start working, wondering what you're thinking, trying to decipher you. You've already won a huge portion of her mental space, but an enigma that offers no clues becomes frustrating, and eventually it's abandoned. Absolute power without a hint of connection is tyranny, and tyranny breeds rebellion. Therefore, the next move on this emotional chessboard is knowing exactly when and how to break that silence. You must learn to offer her a piece of the puzzle, a perfectly calculated vulnerability that doesn't disempower you, but instead draws her even deeper into your web. Okay, let's take the next step in the strategy. Topic 5. Calculated vulnerability. Silence has made you a figure of power, an enigma. Now, you must give her a clue, but not just any clue. This is where we distinguish the surgeon from the butcher. The butcher, the low-value man, spills his emotional guts onto the table. He tells you his unresolved traumas, his current insecurities, his pathetic fears, hoping you'll pity him and heal him. With this, he signs her death warrant. The instant you become his patient, you cease to be a potential lover. The surgeon, the high-value man, handles vulnerability like a scalpel, with precision, with a clear aim, and without causing unnecessary damage. He doesn't share a gaping wound, he shares the scar. This is an elite manipulation tool, a master stroke of the mind game that builds a deep connection without sacrificing an ounce of your power. The formula for calculated vulnerability is a key piece of the masculine strategy and must be executed perfectly. The story you share must meet 3 unbreakable rules. First, it must be in the past. You're not talking about a current problem, but about an obstacle overcome. Second, it must show you in a position of struggle, not a victim. The fault lay with circumstances or your inexperience, not the evils of the world. Third, and most importantly, the resolution must be your own doing. You were the one who made the decision, the one who fought, and the one who won. For example, there was a time when I was terrified of public speaking. It cost me a valuable opportunity. I swore it would never happen again, and I dedicated myself to mastering it until it became one of my strengths. See, it's not a confession of weakness. It's a story of power and resilience disguised as vulnerability. It requires emotional control to avoid falling into sentimentality. Now, prepare for the counterpart, because this is a test you can't fail. By opening a small door to your inner world, she'll most likely feel safe opening one of her own. She'll tell you about a problem, an insecurity, a fear. This is where 99% of men fall into the rescuer trap. They immediately put on their superhero capes and start offering solutions, advice, and saying, "Don't worry, I'll help you." A fatal mistake. By doing this, you position yourself as her therapist or her father, 2 roles that are poison to sexual attraction. This impulse to fix her problems isn't born of strength, but of your own discomfort with negative emotions. You try to quickly put out the fire because you don't know how to stay in it. This annihilates the respect you've worked so hard to build. The high-value man, the strategist who follows Machiavelli's principles of power, doesn't try to rescue her. He's the rock in the storm, not the lifeboat. His job isn't to fix her life. His job is to demonstrate that he can handle her emotional complexity without becoming destabilized. The technique is to validate, not solve. When she shares her problem with you, you look at her with that calmness you've already mastered and say something like, "I completely understand why you feel this way," or "That sounds like a really messed up situation." By doing this, you acknowledge the validity of her emotions, which creates a deep connection, but you don't take responsibility for them. You project unwavering strength, a calm that says, "You can show me your chaos. It won't budge me an inch." This is true power. You've successfully navigated the delicate dance of vulnerability, both yours and hers. You've proven yourself a man of depth, but with a backbone of steel. You've used emotional connection not as an end, but as a tool in your masculine strategy to solidify respect and power. You've built a solid bridge to her, but you've done so on a foundation of dominance. Now, however, comes the critical moment to cross that bridge. You must communicate your interest, your choice, but you must do so in a way that separates you from the pack of needy men chasing her. There's a way to express your desire that, rather than diminishing your value, elevates it into the stratosphere, cementing your position as the ultimate prize. Topic 6. Communicating interest without appearing desperate. You've reached the precipice. The tension is building, the respect is cemented, the emotional connection is a taut string between the two of you. You're at the exact point where most men, intoxicated by impending success, take the plunge and crash. In a rush of emotion, they confess their feelings, put her on a pedestal, and hand over all the power they've worked so hard to accumulate. In a single move, they go from being the prize to just another fan in her fan club. It's the most tragic and common mistake in the entire mind game. The shift from king to servant is instantaneous, and the attraction she felt evaporates just as quickly. Communicating your interest is necessary, but how you do it will determine whether you establish yourself as a god or crumble like a beggar. The fundamental difference lies in the mental frame from which you operate, abundance or scarcity. The man who lives in scarcity, even if he tries to hide it, communicates with every fiber of his being. "Please choose me. You are my only chance." At happiness, his interest is a plea. The high-value man, on the other hand, operates from a frame of unshakable abundance. His life is already full, interesting, and rich with options. He doesn't need a woman for validation. Therefore, when he expresses interest, it's not an act of neediness, it's an act of choice. His underlying message is, "My world is amazing. Of all the people and options I have, I've seen something in you that intrigues me. I choose you to share a portion of my valuable time with." This is the ultimate male strategy. It's not you trying to enter her life. It's her being invited into yours. The language you use should reflect this position of power. Banish from your vocabulary weak questions that seed control, like, "Would you like to go out with me sometime?" That question screams uncertainty. Instead, use direct, confident statements of intent. You don't ask permission, you lead. "I like your energy. We should go get drinks at that new place on such and such a street. Be ready Friday at 9. See the difference? It's not a question, it's a polite but firm directive. It assumes she'll want to go, and puts the onus on her to live up to it. It's a subtle and elegant form of manipulation, framing the date as a natural outgrowth of the connection you have orchestrated. This requires ironclad emotional control to deliver calmly and matter-of-factly. Even your compliments should be strategic, as Machiavelli would advise. The common man praises her beauty, her physique. It's a cheap compliment he's heard 1,000 times, validating her for something she had no control over. A man of power praises what she has cultivated, her mind, her ambition, her wit, a specific quality of her character. "I'm impressed by the way you defend your ideas," or "your take on that subject is refreshing." Very few people think that way. This kind of compliment is a demonstration of power for 3 reasons. First, it shows you've been really paying attention. Second, it shows you have high standards and value substance over surface level. And third, it positions you as a judge of character, someone whose opinion is worth earning. This triggers her desire to gain your respect. You've expressed your interest like a king choosing his consort, not a commoner begging for a handout. You've escalated the interaction, moved the pieces, and maintained complete control of the board. Attraction, at this point, should be at its highest level. But beware, many men believe this is the end of the game, that they've won. How at conquest is only the first battle of the war. True power is demonstrated not by obtaining her, but by keeping her interested, by making respect and desire not only last, but grow over time. The next and final pillar of this strategy is understanding the art of patience and how your consistency over time makes an indelible mark on her mind. Topic 7. Strategic patience and indelible presence. You've played your cards with the precision of a master. You've communicated your interest from a position of power, and she has responded to your leadership. This is where the boy gets excited and believes he's won the prize. The man, however, knows the game has only just begun. Believing there is a finish line is the most dangerous fallacy, the one that leads to complacency and, ultimately, defeat. The mind game is perpetual. The moment you relax, the moment you cease to be that high-value man who attracted her, the power frame reverses, and her respect begins to vanish like smoke. She wasn't attracted to the man you pretended to be for a few hours. She was attracted to that man's promise. Your mission now, the most crucial of all, is to prove that that promise is your unchanging reality. Patience is your most devastating weapon in this phase of the game. It is the ultimate expression of power and emotional control. The needy man is in a hurry. He wants to define the relationship, seeks reassurance, demands constant validation. He is afraid of losing her, and in his haste, he ensures that just that happens. The man of power, on the other hand, moves at his own pace. He has a mission, a purpose that transcends any woman. She is a magnificent complement to his life, not the center of his universe. By not rushing, by allowing the relationship to develop naturally under your leadership, you communicate in the most powerful way that you are not afraid of losing her. And, paradoxically, nothing generates more fear of losing you than your own lack of fear. This is the male strategy for the long haul, the move that sets you apart from the rest. To leave an indelible mark on her mind, you must be the personification of consistency. The calm, dominant, and mysterious man she met on her first night must be the same man she speaks to on a Tuesday afternoon. Your frame is unwavering. Your humor, your ambition, your calm, and your leadership aren't an act for the pick-me-up phase. They're the essence of who you are. This consistency is, in itself, a form of superior psychological manipulation. You create a pillar of strength in her life. While other men are emotional roller coasters, you are the beacon in the fog. Always steadfast, always in the same place, always confident in your power. Your presence ceases to be a whim and becomes a fundamental necessity for her balance. Respect is forged on this anvil of consistency. Think of this from Machiavelli's cold, calculating perspective. Your goal isn't a fleeting encounter or a temporary relationship. Your goal is to establish a legacy of power and influence. It's about becoming such a central and positive force in her life that she chooses to orbit around you herself, not because you force her to, but because your gravitational pull is too powerful to resist. This is true power in a relationship. It's not about commanding her, but about making your desires become hers. It's not about controlling her, but about being such a sovereign man in his own kingdom that she finds in it the freedom and security she craves. It's the pinnacle of the mind game where strategy dissolves to become a way of being. Ultimately, all this knowledge from calculated vulnerability to strategic patience isn't a set of tricks for getting the girl. It's a playbook for forging yourself into a man of superior value. It's a path to reclaiming the masculine power that society has tried to dilute. It's about understanding that attraction isn't a logical choice she makes, but a visceral reaction to male strength, competition, and dominance. By applying these principles, you don't just change how women react to you, you fundamentally change who you are. You stop playing their game and, ultimately, force the world to play yours on your own terms.